I watched the trailer of your new film Marjaavaan, and I thought to myself, wow, this is interesting. This is a throwback to a different time. This seems like the kind of movie that sort of celebrates the the 80s, 90s kind of film. And I thought to myself that you guys are the new generation of actors. What was it that sort of interested you in this? At a time when on the one hand it feels like popular Hindi cinema is moving away from it, and yet the success of, say, your own director's last film, Satyameva Jayate, proves that when done interestingly, it works. What was it for each of you that felt like this is the kind of movie I want to be a part of?
First of all, thank you so much for calling me the new generation.
I knew he was going to say that.
But that's
So thank you.
Yes.
I knew he was going to say
Thank
I know
you.
you've been working for a while, but still,
You had him at new generation.
You're definitely not. I mean, you came at the time when sort of Hindi cinema was changing, wasn't it?
True. So I'll tell you what. I'm a huge 90s cinema fan, and I have probably witnessed throughout my career a big change.
Yeah.
Right from the 90s cinema changing 2000, 2010,
Correct.
the new gen cinema that came in about new. But throughout my career, I never had the chance to play a role that was larger than life, to throw lines that were just, what the 90s
Correct,
actors
those claptrap
or
kind of lines,
big villains or big heroes would say and people would clap.
Right.
Hopefully they still clap, we'll know on the 16th. But that was the attraction, because I'm a huge fan of the 90s and 80s cinema.
Right.
And I'm glad that though I'm saying this line in 2010, this decade, but I feel that
I love that Kaminepan
ki height. So, but that's Milap, know, and he has the knack of doing it hopefully correctly again after Satyameva Jayate, which he proved himself.
Is the trick, and I want you all to answer the question that I asked, is the trick also to do it unabashedly? I mean, is that what works? I mean, if you're sort of, because you see a lot of filmmakers who want to do it, but they're almost sort of squeamish about it, and then that doesn't seem to. I mean, if you're going to do the
so that's where conviction comes in, right? It starts from the director. It starts from actors just like him. I was born in the 80s, or grew up on 90s, and saw a lot of this cinema, say, in cassettes of, say, Bachchan Saab 70s and 80s, and enjoyed it. I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
And today, people, I think, are not, I won't say convinced, but not doing this kind of cinema unabashedly.
Sure.
So as I think original and new our love story is, the flavor is a bit retro, classic in that sense.
Right.
Larger than life drama. So I mean, we had to be convinced. I'm a big fan of this cinema. And I think all of
Was
us.
it also for you, like Riteish said, an opportunity to sort of say the kind of dialogues and to have the kind of entries that you've always enjoyed watching?
Absolutely. I think this is the first time I have been presented like this complete larger than life hero, fighting 20 people and saying these lines and fighting for love, and absolutely. I think it is an aura that all these heroes have built. Sanjay Dutt, Sunny Deol, Mr. Bachchan, and we have just tried to be inspired from that and create something interesting and a nice cocktail of today and yesterday.
Sure. Tara is the baby in the group.
Yes, I was just going to say I feel like I'm the baby right now.
Right. I mean, was this, what sort of interested you in this? Of course, the fact that so early on in the career to be at the center of a love story, I know that it takes a lot of, it takes sometimes a while to get that kind of central kind of part. But what was it for you that felt like this is one I want to do?
I remember we were still shooting Student of the Year 2 and Milap called me and he said he had this story. And I think the second I heard the narration, I think it was so exciting because not only is the girl's character mute, which is something really exciting, and I think that's the bonus of being an actor really, is that, and so early on, that to do such a different role right after Student in the same year, I think has been really, really exciting, and I really love to use sign language actually even in real life now. It's become a part of my everyday.
Did some work go into that? I mean,
there was in fact a couple of months of prep that we did. So I was filming Student in the day and I'd come home to my sign language coach who was wonderful, and we trained at night. So it was, rewarding just by learning the language. I think it's something that's universal, and I think that I'm really lucky to have gotten to do it in the film.
Sure. Ritesh, I think it's sort of fascinating, and it's sort of interesting that that the villain of the piece happens to be someone that's a dwarf. It's sort of and it's also sort of interesting because the physicality is so different, right? You're clearly beefed up, and you're clearly meant to look sort of big, and the sort of the guy who's opposite them is I mean, was that part of the attraction? And what was the, I mean, how did you all film that? Because is it largely CGI? Is a lot of it sort of perspective?
So to answer the first part, I think Milap had written the earlier part, the villain that I played, an Ek villain,
Right.
and which obviously with
Yeah.
Sidharth, it was a wonderful experience,
Right.
and it was received well by the audience.
Correct.
So after that, it's almost after 5 years that I get a chance to play another one. Strangely, it was Milap again who wrote something exciting.
Yeah.
And yes, what happens that because he's sort of vertically challenged,
Yeah.
and he has this big hero, and then in his perspective, he doesn't think he's a 3 foot tall guy.
Right.
He actually thinks that everyone else in front of him is 3 feet tall.
Right.
So his attitude is that. His arrogance is like, मैं बड़ला ही नहीं हूँ.
Correct.
आप लोग छोटे हो मेरे सामने.
Right.
And that larger than life, and
It's in the head.
it's
right.
in the head,
Right.
and the issue with him is also because of his height in the film.
Okay.
So that gives a certain edge for his cynicism in the film. He's cynical because of
Right.
that and what happens with his father and the relationship that he shares. So yes, that is what attracted, because I tend to find an emotional chord or core in a character which was there in Equivalent. I
Correct.
feel it's there in this also. So for me, I paid more attention to that one emotional scene with his father that sets him why he's the way he is.
Right.
Then trying to do one take. Yeah, difficulty. Yes, every shot we did like 5 times. So one was just me on my knees.
I was going to say,
no one
I
around.
mean, famously when Kamal Hassan did Apu Raja or Apurva's Saudargal, it was he tied up his because at that time you didn't have CGI. He tied his feet in such a way that he was on his knees throughout.
I know, and thanks for technology, it becomes easier.
Correct.
Yeah, I know, but he's done most of his close-ups and
Himself,
some of the movements on his knees.
And that's what it is. So I think hats off to Milap and the DOP and the guys who planned it. They've shot it smartly. We're not trying to show that, okay, look what amazing CGI we can do.
Correct.
But gone on this thing that this is the guy. You'll see him
not drawing attention to
not
that
drawing attention to
necessarily,
those special effects.
Yeah.
But the difficulty was half the time I had to look at Sidharth's crotch and say the lines.
Yeah. Absolutely.
If I'm on my knees,
Yeah.
and then if I have to stand and do the same thing, then Sidharth is
Then
looking
I
at
have to
my
look at his
crotch
crotch. So that's
and saying the
payback.
lines.
So then we both are just staring at each other's crotch for each other's lines.
Yeah,
What am I doing here?
yeah, it's like
All threatening lines.
yeah, देखिए सोचा ना था ऐसा अंजाम
Oh
होगा
my
एक
God.
बार का बादशाह गुलाम होगा. Like, hello, what's going on here?
Yeah.
So that's
Some have to see us shooting from far off. They think we're on some drug.
Something is going on the set.
Suggestive film.
And going by Milap's reputation, they might think
Correct.
Milap is back
Right,
at
he's
it.
back
to his zone.
One of his earlier kind of movies.
Yeah.
But what was the sort of experience of making this film? What was the mood on set? The fact that you guys have worked together before, did you feel like a little bit like they had a chemistry already going, and you had to kind of come in? Also because Milap knows them and has worked with
I
both
think
them.
everyone actually did know each other beforehand, and the chemistry was therefore incredible. I
Right.
didn't actually feel left out at all, because I think the energy that we had with, of course, when you have someone like Milap on set,
Right.
he's such a warm, person. He makes you feel so at home and so at ease. And I think I'm very new in comparison to, of course, Riteish sir and Sid. So I think, but everyone had funny stories to tell. I remember Riteish sir had quite a few when we were doing night shoots, and there were these rain sequences, and it was quite hard. But so it was intense on screen, and then really fun off.
But it is, like I said, it is just amazing. Of course, Sidharth I have worked with before,
Yeah.
so we bonded.
But you were also in
instantly.
Milap's first film.
Yeah, and
You've known him too long,
right,
unfortunately.
yeah,
A lot of history.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of history with me and Milap, which I wish there was some button called erase in my life, but unfortunately, or detach also.
But once again, so does he.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Even he has a lot of history.
I've
Yes.
also known Milap
We
long.
both need a detach.
Both of you guys.
Button and erase,
Wipe the
erase
slate
or wipe,
clean.
yeah. Undo, but unfortunately we can't do that, so that's that. But yeah, even to work with Tara, you suddenly have this new energy, new perspective towards doing scenes, and a great energy on set. So it's almost like there is something new to learn.
Right.
I always feel that when I did even Ek Villain, there was so much that I learned from Sidharth. Even in this film, I always seek to learn from my co-actors silently. I just watch them on monitors and figure out, okay, there's something nice expression. Like even when I was watching the promo of this film when it came out, and just that look of Sidharth looking at Tara in love, and just that nod, or when she just moves, turns around, and it's such a quintessential heroine moment.
Right,
and
right.
when you have someone as new as her to do it with such confidence, it just shows that people in this generation are so much more prepared than what I was when I came in.
Thank
No,
you.
you're
That's
wonderful.
so
You're wonderful.
sweet. That's so sweet.
You know, I'm going to ask you, you've spoken about, the truth is that all of you outside of this film have been working on different kinds of, a very different kind of film. You know, where the heroism isn't in your face in the way that it is here, or where it's not larger than life, or where you're not delivering dialogues which are meant to land. It feels like every dialogue here is sort of meant to land. Is that, you know, when you spoke about conviction from the filmmakers, that same conviction, I would imagine, needs to sort of also be there in the actors, right? When you're kind of, are you conscious when you're delivering those kind of lines? I mean, like, is it landing? You know, when you're, I mean, I saw the bits where you're, you know, these are things that you don't necessarily do in every movie, or the lines that you're landing. How do you know if it's working on set? How do you know if those lines, if those moments are actually landing? Are you largely relying on the director and the crew to tell you whether it is, or is there an inherent instinct which is telling you that this is working, or that it's not?
How do you know it's
you want
working?
to go ahead?
No,
So I feel that the line, the way it's written, there's a rhythm to it.
Right.
Okay, it's more poetry than just a statement. So when it says कि पता है कमीनेपन की height क्या है? There's a pause.
Correct.
3 foot. So there's a rhythm to it.
Right.
And if when you read it, the rhythm comes to you. True. And different actors will add it to their personality. कि pause कहाँ पे आएगा, you know, how much can you stretch it, or how sometimes it falls flat in the middle. You know, मजा नहीं है, can we do it one more? And then you recalibrate and say it. But I feel when there are larger than life lines, there's attitude and there's rhythm. The rhythm has to be there.
Right.
And it's like I said, that's like comedy.
Correct.
Is more like rhythm.
It's actually, you're right. It's so much like comedy because you have to, you're sort of doing it and you're hoping that it's kind of landing.
Because other lines you can just say it and it's okay. But like you said, the word that it has to land. Like a punch in comedy has to land. Otherwise, people will not get the effect of laughter or awness when it comes to these lines. So that's what I feel.
Yeah, I think also whatever an actor creates on screen, or his interpretation towards that scene, as long as we are convinced, you know, if I'm doing it with confidence, you feel it. You feel every take.
Right.
One take, like if the first time, that's that same tanker scene, you know, putting up the chin. I said, you show, aisa karke, so I said, you know, then give me that much time, make it believable. Let me take that much time where I take the cue. If I'm not feeling angry enough, I'm not feeling strong enough, I'm not convincing the lines.
You have to feel it, right.
So I said, sometimes I should take that much time, and we have editing to help it out. But I think you feel it as an actor. Whatever we create is truth for us. I think the audience will believe.
Right. Tara, in your case, in you know, when you're playing an actor who doesn't actually have lines.
Yes.
And you still have to,
She
kind
has
of
spoken the most without any lines. Let me just take
it up. Offset, is it?
No. On screen.
Okay, right.
She's
Through
talking.
yeah.
I mean,
That's
she's expressing
sweet.
on screen.
I mean, you're right. There's no spoken dialogue, but there's a lot through sign language, and as Sid keeps saying, through the eyes.
Through the eyes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult, generally, in a second film to not even, you know, not have lines and to give only expressions, have that presence. It's very difficult, and I think it's coming across really well, and we're excited to show the people.
And we have a film where one guy is 3 feet tall,
That's
one
true.
woman who doesn't
That's
speak,
true.
and the director doesn't think.
Oh, I love that.
So yes.
3 monkeys.
So Sidharth, what am I doing here?
Why do you think I'm breaking chains and breaking helmets? Like, what is happening? He's angry all the time.
But you know, just to come to the point of 90s, you know, we talk about relevance of today's songs, right? Most of the 90s songs are remixed today. And they have been loved by newer generations. If you go on social media apps, which are, I'm not saying Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, but something like TikTok, like tier 2, tier 3 cities, they are all flooded with 90s dialogues and scenes and whatever. I go through it. And then you realize that there is a large audience there who look forward to these lines.
Correct.
And fair enough, we make movies that cater to the everyone in
Yeah.
India. But we also understand that there are certain films that will cater more to tier 2, tier 3 cities
Right.
than a
Right.
multiplex.
But let me flip that argument.
Sure.
I mean, since you brought it up, I want to flip that argument. I want to ask you, especially in the case of music, certainly in the case of music, do you feel like, as the younger generation of actors, do you feel like there is a responsibility also to not let it get to a point where there feels like there is a sort of creative bankruptcy? Because in music, it almost feels like there is a bankruptcy. I mean, it feels like why are we so reliant on hit songs and old songs? Are the guys who are, is the current generation of composers just not making good enough music? And same for, I mean, why are we doing throwbacks? Why are we doing films that are celebrating the 90s? Are we not, I mean, do you feel like there is a responsibility to perhaps, or, I mean, certainly you can't be responsible for where Hindi cinema is going, that's too big.
Correct.
But at least in your own careers, do you feel like I need to balance it out?
No, I feel when it comes to actors, we are the last ones to know what songs are going to be given to us.
Correct.
So we are not the ones. We are
Correct.
received
Yeah.
2 days before, this is a song,
Correct.
great. Second, lalach, greediness of, the greed of, oh wow,
Yeah.
what a 90s. So I love this song, I get a chance to dance on
It's
that
sort
song.
of, yeah,
so
a chance to
that's,
relive
that's
your
why.
childhood.
Every 90s song has worked. If done correctly, it has worked.
True.
Not every song. So I think, and once it works, you see it in the numbers, you see the number of hits, the kind of popularity. So I mean that you've lost the argument. If the producer or the music company is saying, "Ki, sir, itne hits ho gaye," it's become a hit thing, then your job is done.
Correct.
But at the same time, what you said, newer song, like Tumi Aana, has more hits than any
Than
other
any of
song.
our other songs in the film.
So and that's an original song, that's a new song, and it's a beautiful song.
Right. Tara, do you, as again, as the youngest in the group, do you find yourself conflicted? I would imagine that these guys, having now worked for a couple, Riteish longer than Sidharth, but having worked a couple of years, have sort of figured out that for themselves. Do you find yourself conflicted? Every choice that you make, is there a lot of thought in terms of what's the direction I want to take? What's the career I want to have? I mean, do I want to do a certain kind of movie? Do I want to mix it up? I mean, do you find that as someone that's young, that's something that's a conflict that will just keep coming up?
Well, I don't know if it's a conflict. I do think that it's possibly one of the best times, especially for women in our line of work, in any line of work really. I think there's a wonderful movement that's been created a few years ago, and I think that it's a very exciting time for all of us to explore every platform there is in the arts, outside of the arts. And I've been singing all my life, so that's something that I'm very excited to explore next year onwards, I think, hopefully.
Oh, lovely.
And I just think that I don't know if I feel conflicted. I know it is confusing sometimes because it's all very new.
You're right. Maybe confusing is the right word. Right.
But it's as exciting. So I think there are so many options. Women are directing, producing, acting, singing in their own films, and I think that's why it's the best time to be in the movies. And I think that especially the next year onwards is something that I hope I can start doing lots of things and not be as confused as I have been this year.
Okay. Do you feel like this film will be compared to Ek Villain? Not that that's a bad comparison.
Yeah, I think by default, because both of us
And
are
also you're
coming
playing
back.
the similar
I would
roles
say
in the sense it's
similar zone, but complete different world and complete different avatars. Like especially for him, I think he's one of the luckiest actors in the country who gets to, play a character which is so different physically.
I know.
And today we have the technology, and he's got a role. I think first time somebody's playing a negative character. I think that's up.
And also what happens, right? Like you said, comparisons. Like for me, especially Ek Villain, they say, okay, it's Ek Villain. Now you played a villain there. Villain, how different is it, or whatever? If in Ek Villain he was a guy who could be one of many, lost in the crowd.
Right. And that was the specialty of
If
that
he
guy,
didn't kill,
correct.
he would be a guy in every building.
Right.
Okay, just because he was a serial killer, he became something different.
Correct.
But this guy,
He stands out, right?
he stands out in a million people. And because of his attitude, not because of his height, and because of what he does. So that's the difference. And I just feel that his negativity was in his mind.
Yeah.
His is in his act.
Okay.
And what he says and what he does, his arrogance and everything is something that you don't want to associate with.
Right.
But hopefully you like also. There's something about that negativity you feel it's is charming. Yet
Yeah, I think it's very
Yes.
entertaining as well. I think once you see the film, you realize that this character, what Riteish has done with it. I thoroughly enjoy when I
I
saw the
hope he
final
doesn't
product.
see it, but
Actually, that's true. So when people see it,
I'm going with no prejudices.
are you on a holiday at that time? Any international trip in Australia?
can,
Very much,
somewhere?
yeah. And looking
can we
forward.
organize an interview with
Yeah,
Tom?
can we?
Tom?
I knew I shouldn't have told you. But Sidharth, when you're playing the hero, when you're playing, and in the 80s and 90s, the truth is that there was not a lot of nuance. Like today's hero is not a hero. Like today's, in what we call the new Hindi
Sure.
film, the hero is also an evolved character. He's got shades. But in those films, the hero was the hero. And it feels, if this is a throwback to that, how do you differentiate? I mean, how do you... will this be very similar to Igwilin in that sense? I mean, he was also driven by love. He was also driven...
Yeah.
And again, I feel like the trailer gives a lot away. So, I mean, one gets a sense of what her fate, what this character's fate is going to be. One gets a sense that there is vengeance. One gets a... So, how does one differentiate... I mean, how do you make this character very different from the last one, or the one in...
I think Igwilin, even I had more grey shades to me. It was far more morose, I would say, and it starts off me killing a person, maybe innocent at that time. Here, I am maybe as aggressive, not as morose, and working in a world, or we work for this water mafia that they create in Bombay, and I'm an orphan in it. Where he feels he's doing the right thing and only say punishing the one who've done wrong. So there is more black and white in this film as opposed to villain. There were more shades of grey on both sides.
Right.
I think that differentiates it. And as far as giving stuff out on, I think today the audience really wants to make up their mind way before purely by seeing the trailer.
Right. So you have to put in all
so
the best
we can't
bits.
really just say it is an action film, just made love story here.
Correct.
At least for me, the love story, it's very unique purely because that she's mute.
Yeah.
It makes it very pure, very innocent, not typical in that sense. And in that scenario, where the two lovers, one has to kill the other. You have to see why and what had come to it. It's purely it's an emotional story first.
Right.
It is his struggle with his father's character, his emotion towards me, and I think our audience is extremely emotional to start with. So if they buy into that,
emotions we buy into.
Yeah,
completely.
so it's conviction. It's conviction. So we're hoping to get them on this roller coaster ride of emotions.
And interestingly, when we talk about the promos of whether we have shown too much or less or whatever, in the 80s and 90s, whenever the promos started coming out, the only thing people would love to do is go out and watch movies.
Right.
But now there are more reasons to stay at home and not get out.
Yeah,
True.
the dynamics have changed.
And the reason now it's important is first get the audience to the theatre.
Correct.
And that's the first challenge. Now you see quite a bit of films, which promised to a theatrical release but decided smartly to go on a digital platform.
Sure.
But now if you want to come in a theatre, you have to have something more to the audience, that certain curiosity that builds, okay, this is the reason I'm going to go to theatre and watch this film. Right. That's a huge challenge. Making a movie is easier than getting them to the theatres.
It's become more competitive, absolutely.
True. Tara, because you spoke about why, how these are better times for women, certainly. I mean, is there a part that's important? I mean, was it important for you? And I don't know the film. I haven't watched the film yet. That she's not just reduced to a bechari. I mean, she's clearly a victim in the story from what one can make out from the trailer. She's mute. Obviously, these are also written and designed in a way to again, to get the emotion, so that you're already invested in this character. You're kind of, you're already invested because she's mute. She's probably possibly killed in the film.
Yeah.
Was it important that she not be just, I mean, like, again, those films in the 80s and 90s were very sort of devoid of any nuance. That she's not just a bechari, that she's not just a lachar.
Yeah. No, in fact, I think quite on the contrary. I don't think she's a bechari at all. I think, and that's in the film. We haven't shown it in the trailer and in the song, fortunately or unfortunately. But she's from Kashmir. She comes to Mumbai, to this basti where she meets all of their characters, and she's actually not a bechari at all. She's a very strong, independent young woman who wants to change the world in a little way that she can, which is through music. Of course, something happens in the film, which is what leads to the last shot of the trailer. But I think the way Milap's written it, you can, through the dialogue in the sign language, you can also see that she's she's definitely, she's very confident. She knows what she stands for, which I think is like most women today.
Yeah.
And I think that I understand what you mean by the bichari thing. I understand that because, you know, of course, there's a lot of emotions in the trailer, and she does, you know, get shot.
Right.
But I don't think that that's something that's inherently Zoya.
You know, interestingly, I wasn't there for that shoot, but there's one shot where both of them, I believe, meet for the first time. They both hit each other, and the harmonica from her hand falls down, and the gun from his pocket falls down, and she lifts the gun and she gives it to him and
Very
walks out.
unafraid and unabashed.
It could have been a mobile phone.
Right.
So now that shows the
that's
attitude
a
of the
good,
girl.
Not overwhelmed by that.
It's
right.
not like, oh my
Exactly.
God, there's a gun. What do I do?
Right.
She's like,
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So
actually,
that's
yeah.
that's
So
actually very
that's
interesting.
that was for me
Correct.
what this girl was. She's
Nice.
mute.
Yeah.
She's come from Kashmir,
Right.
and she's not scared of
Scared
that.
of
She's
gun.
soft, but she has the
That's
strength.
actually very
as well.
interesting, yeah. I'm going to ask you all finally before we go. I have to say, I'm curious. You got me curious about this film. I'm now really, I'm
So
looking.
we work better than the promo.
I know.
I just want to tell you.
Are we selling it better?
I think you may be. You
should have a
ask
third promo of this then.
should ask a
Yeah.
director for a raise. You should ask a producer for a raise. I want to ask you, finally, when the movie does come out, what's the sort of reaction? You know, every film, I would imagine, has a different place in a filmography. You expect a different reaction from. I mean, a house full you want a very different reaction from from Marjaavaan. What's the reaction that you hope to hear from an audience that will make you go like, okay, I think we achieved what we set out to do?
I think for Marjaavaan, I want the reaction completely opposite of the critics
Right.
from the audience.
Correct. You already know what.
Exactly. Correct. That's
No, having seen what Houseful has gone through,
That's right.
so I would expect
it's
that.
good omen.
Yes.
it's lucky.
No, but I just feel, sorry to cut you, I just feel that when people go to the theatre,
Right.
see, a promo has promised you something.
Correct.
And that is the reason you're going to watch the film.
Correct.
Okay, people who didn't like what it promised may
Correct,
not
may
know.
not have watched it,
But
may
people
not go
who
in
go
at
to
all.
the theatre,
Yeah.
and we hope that that is a good enough number for people to go
Right,
and watch
right.
and make the film a success. Fingers crossed. We just want to. I believe that when they go and watch, okay, maza aa gaya.
Right.
Okay, whatever I wished for इस पिक्चर में था,
Okay.
रोमांस था, डायलॉग बाजी थी, एक्शन था, ह्यूमर था,
Right.
and I had a great time. This is what I expect.
It's a film made for the audience. I mean, especially coming from our director, he
Correct.
always looks at कि नहीं यार इस dialogue पे he keeps telling us with full confidence कि
Right.
ताली बजने वाली है और so that's his vision, that's
Right.
his thought, that is his attempt to entertain in every sequence. You know,
Yeah.
there has to be a high point where you feel excited and you hopefully you get goosebumps and want to clap. I mean,
True.
there is an audience for it. We're hoping that we have entertained them.
Correct.
पैसा वसूल जो we would say for a tier 2, tier 3 audience.
True. Okay.
No, I think like Sid just said, I think Milap's whole idea with this film is we just want to entertain. And I think if we can achieve that,
Sure.
then we will have hit the home run. And I hope that they can connect with all of the characters because they're all very unique and special in their
Right.
own ways.
Right.
You know, so I think that if we can do that, then fingers crossed, we'll have.
And money, of course.
Yeah.
Right.
Make
That
it
too.
Goes hand
Box
in hand.
office.
That too.
All the best. Looking forward to watching the film and looking
Thank
forward to
you.
like being entertained. Like you said, looking forward to being entertained.
Are you sure you're in town, 15th?
Very much so.
Yeah?
Very much
You're not
so.
traveling anywhere?
First day first show, if not sooner.
First day, first show,
If
15th
not
morning?
sooner.
Tom
Okay.
calling to Hollywood. Rajeev, we need you in Hollywood on 15th.
Yeah, exactly.
Come back on 16th,
Ah,
15th.
The new release in Hollywood. The
Thank you
weekend.
so much.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Rajeev.
you.
Thank you.